smaller community of practice here in the region, that where we would also invite more people from different disciplinary backgrounds to really exchange like we're doing today, might be a really interesting step to just gear it up to also scale up in the near future. So thank you very much. I think that if we then move to the next table, I would like to ask the engineering ecology feedback from Afifa to see if you can share your screen. Thank you, Simon. Afifa made a few slides as well, but then they would have to be put on the screen. Does that work? Did you send the USB key to them? I'll move here a little bit. Oh, there they are. Afifa, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. So we had a very interesting discussion, mainly because we had people from various fields coming in together. First slide, please. Yeah, as I said, I'm working in the dredging industry, also with coral rehabilitation. Then we had someone from managed wastewater treatment, desalinization, renewable energy. So it was very interesting to talk about various aspects. So basically, we identified seawater rise as one of the main problems with regards to marine development. And we have concentrated on 3 aspects, that is energy, freshwater, and wastewater treatment. So we have combined all of these to give some solid solutions. The first one that came up was industrial filtration system, to design a filtration system that makes use of both saline and freshwater characteristics. And the ecological advantage of such a system is that we can eventually create a better habitat for fishes, and we can think of other approaches like recreation at the developed sand area, all of that. The second one came from the desalinization expert. She asked for a zero liquid discharge desalinization system. So in this way, right now what's happening in this area is that we discharge the salt water directly after treatment into the sea. But instead of that, you could actually treat the brine and use it for commercial and industrial use. Thereby, there is no discharge at all into the sea. And the third solution that we came up was to create new habitat. Coming from the dredging industry, we have a lot of experiences where we dispose the dredged sand offshore, but instead of that, we could think of possibilities where we can reuse that sand to create a new habitat. For instance, use it for creating mangroves after checking the soil properties. Like he said, there's an example where you can create this freshwater treatment system. The algae can be used for mussel and oyster growth. So in that way, you create a lot of solutions that can eventually turn out as a good habitat for other species. And the last one is restoring habitats, and also I should add to this protection of habitats. So when we take up new marine projects, there are instances where we have to cut through coral ecosystems or seagrass ecosystems. We had a very recent project in Mozambique where the pipeline was cutting right through the coral ecosystem. So instead of doing that, we called for an alternate solution that was to change the route of the pipeline. We know it's a lengthier route, but still it did protect a lot of corals, and we also relocated whatever coral that was going to be destroyed. So whenever there is a project, you have to look for opportunities to save the marine habitat from destruction. So these are a few of the points that we discussed, but what I noticed in all of these solutions is that we always have to think about a multifunctional approach when you think about any kind of infrastructure, be it any concrete structure, be it buildings. Always think about different ways of using the project. So we can think of recreation, we can think of reusing the land, species development, habitat development, anything. And the next step was to involve the local communities when you create a solution. Like many of the time, like coming from my country, I come from India, there are instances where people from outside come and work, but then the local people are not involved. But many a times, the local people might know about the very basic characteristics or things that happen. So it's very important to involve the local communities as part of these nature-based solutions. Next slide. Next, talking about the challenges, we did identify quite a few. The first one, and I think this was a common challenge that was identified in the other tables as well, and this was lack of considering environmental factors in the pre-tendering stage. Like when we, as a contractor, when we get a project, the EIA has already been prepared and everything has been approved. So there's not much we can do to change the EIA. But if an environmental engineer or a local stakeholder is involved from the first stage, then he or she can think about the basic problems and even give new technological solutions. So it is very, very important to involve multi-stakeholder approach in the pre-tendering phase. The next one is the mentality of not being ready to change. I work in business development department, and this is something that I have to face on a day-to-day basis. Like, there is a system that is being practiced since the years, and people are not ready to. Everyone says it's a good solution, it's a good idea, but then when it finally comes to signing the paper, they say no, we have to go with the approved one because there's no proof of project and so on. So that's another problem. And the third one is, of course, cost implications. As sometimes the nature-based solution might get a little bit more costlier than the normal solution. But it is hard to convince the client about the long-term benefit of this nature-based solution that we are giving them. And the final one is spatial and temporal challenges. This is, again, another challenge that I've recently faced in my work. So I work with the coral rehabilitation team, and we are pushing for breeding of coral reefs. That is to practically create new coral reefs by sexual reproduction. But the thing that's been going on in the Middle East so far is asexual reproduction or fragmentation of coral reefs. So, but even though fragmentation gives faster results, it does not give a long-term solution. But the sexual reproduction could do that. But it is very, very hard to convince people that this is the better option, because everyone wants to see a result in 2 years' time, which is not sometimes possible with nature-based solutions. Next slide. So going on to the next step, the first thing that is to be done is to make the government authorities be aware that it is important to include the contractor and the stakeholders, the people who are going to be affected by the project from the very early stage of the project. Next one is think of multifunctionality approaches in the nature-based solutions. And the third one, and this is perhaps a very important thing, and that can be done in a very in the next day, starting the next day as well. That is to make awareness on climate funding options to the people. Because I see there are a lot of funds available, like the Green Climate Fund, there's the United Nations Fund, the UAE government has a lot of fund, but eventually no one knows how to get it. I go talk to the ministry, I go to the people, but most people do not know how to apply for it or how can we access that. So it is very important that all these climate funding, it is there, but it is not being made aware to the general people who are working in this field. So these are a couple of next immediate steps that could be taken for a climate positive development. Yeah. I hope that was interesting.
Well,
Thank
it's very
you.
nice to hear that. And I think it also links very well with this idea of like a community of practice. So, and if you then also can share that information there about the funding opportunities or the cooperation opportunities, that really would help in the dialogue to really start doing this in practice, right? So that's really nice. Then we have one more table left. So I don't know who will be the one reporting back from that one. Is that Lieke? Lieke will be on this screen. So thank you, Afifa.
Hi, Alice. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I cannot yet see you.